The power is back on. That was 3 full days of no power. Big time prepper success. I was so prepared for this 3 days of no power. It could have gone on for another year and I would have been ready. If you don't have food, water, shelter, essentials, and a basic know-how of how to survive in the wild with no power or no communication, that would be a very foolish position to take. Eastern Ontario, actually all of Ontario got hit by this storm really hard, but Ottawa got hit hard specifically. I've never seen so many gigantic trees uproot. Now, 8-foot tree trunks, those giant trees were coming completely out of the ground, no roots and everything. It was absolute madness. I was closer to the city when this storm actually happened, and it looked like a tornado ripped through it. Half of it I spent in the car, and the other half I was shopping, basically. But when I returned, it was like a hurricane whipped through, and yeah, power lines on the roads, no power anywhere. So even driving at night, you would just see nothing. Not even the 4-way blinkers were on. I am fully convinced that the weather can be modified. Now, I've just been hearing about this stuff for too long, and it just makes sense. And I would say that you're actually a conspiracy theorist if you think that the pieces of garbage in this city, Ottawa, didn't bring this storm on themselves. Unfortunately, most people in this city deserve this stuff, but many people people I like to hang around with don't deserve storms like this, and they don't deserve to, it was wild. Within 24 hours, I witnessed people just panicking, people stealing jugs of water from the gas station. Everyone was filling up jerry cans, people had their generators out, and I was fine. There was no real big changes in my life. I can read for hours and hours on end and be perfectly content. I do half of it with hardcover books or softcover, and half with the tablet. And you can kind of charge the tablet in the car. Now, one prepper thing I still need to get is a solar charger, which is pretty essential. I've had this on my list for a while. I'm going to put it on my Amazon wish list, and maybe maybe someone who's been watching my videos can chip in, because I really want to get a really nice solar charger, because when you're out there and you're the only one with power, you're like the man, and you never want to be without power and communication especially. But I didn't hear anything about the convoy for 3 full days. I didn't hear anything about COVID until about an hour ago, which I heard about it all the time. People still think that they had COVID. They're like, oh, well, when I had COVID, and I heard this from 3 or 4 different people, they're still talking about this. And it's just bizarre, because this is not like some accomplishment. Getting sick is not something you go and be proud of, and you're like, oh, well, I took 8 months off work because COVID. I felt totally fine, and I was, but because COVID, I could have spread it and gave it to my dog, and I heard that cats and dogs can pass it on to grandparents. So, I had to isolate myself from the world and whatever. But yeah, it was great not hearing about sports, not hearing about the mainstream media, not hearing about monkeypox, which is apparently the next big thing. They have, cases all around all the provinces now. We all know this is complete nonsense. If anything, monkeypox is just whatever seasonal thing people get, or it could be even like poison ivy. The pictures I saw were basically like poison ivy, but of course I'm not a doctor or a scientist, so I'm not qualified to speak on health matters. You should just listen to your 400-pound public health officer wherever you live about health-related concerns, because what would people like me know about health? People who spend a large portion of their day, of their life, on nutrition, on being a healthy person, both mentally, physically, and spiritually. I don't think there's any real separation. You got to have all three, and you got to work at this stuff nonstop every day. So yeah, big outages. The storm has just cost billions of dollars in repairs. The power is still out for hundreds of thousands of people, I believe. My sister actually texted that about 6 hours away they were getting nickel-sized hail and super, super strong winds. So when you hear that and it's 6 hours away, you're thinking like, oh, well, whatever. Like, there's no chance it's going to come here. And then it does come here. And when it came here, it hit way, way harder. So it came from south and it went up to the north. So, you know, that's just apparently how storms go. But I'm fully convinced that intelligence agencies, governments can change weather. Think about this on the small scale. Look what they do for Hollywood productions. And I've always read about this, like from Alex Constantine's book. He would have chapters on weather manipulation and weather modification. We don't really ever hear much from United States naval intelligence. We don't hear much from any of the intelligence agencies. Like, they don't do broadcasts. They don't have a TV show. It wouldn't really be that difficult with the technology we have today to just put more radiation in the atmosphere, and maybe that creates a bigger storm. I'm just kind of spitballing and throwing ideas out here, but there's no way this was an accident. This was totally unprecedented. No one saw this coming. All the power lines just, it's like the city just crumbled. And, you know, walking around in the suburbs was like a nightmare. It's like every second house had a giant tree collapse on their car sometimes, and the power lines were down. So a lot of people are losing a lot of money right now because their businesses are forced to close. This was another very bizarre thing. Like, if you have cash and you have something to buy, like now people are so in tune with this electronic payment methods that they have to close their entire store because their computers aren't working. Like, what is going on here? You should at least be able to take cash and have a thing at hand. Like, this is where we're going in the future. You're not even going to need a storm to get locked out of this system. Now, everyone's in a really good mood because the power is back on, and, you know, we're coming into summertime, but expect more power outages. Expect more of this technotronic hellhole to keep rolling on. Imagine being a business and having to close your business just because there's no electricity. Just find a way to take cash. Find a way to have a sign out there and say, oh yeah, well, we have gas, but it pumps really slow. You can still buy food, you can still buy propane and cigarettes and all the other stuff people like lose their fucking minds about. But, you know, that was just the storm. There's no name for it yet. It is hopefully over, but you never really know because power's on 1 minute, power's on the next minute, power's off the next minute. That's just my little update. I haven't really been uploading for a little while because I've been enjoying the peace and the serenity of not having electronics around. I really think electronics are destroying society sometimes. I saw so many people I haven't seen in a long time. People even from like my youth that, and you see a lot of people who are, you can tell they're never really outside generally, but people were out in the front lawns, like, they were playing Plinko. They were playing those horseshoe games you play at campsites. What's the Italian one? Oh yeah, bocce ball. So there was some positives, like the community really came together, and when you're forced to do things, maybe you don't like your neighbors or whatever, but you'll still get together and make sure you guys are okay. So I think, you know, while it was pretty devastating around here, and it still is, like, I've not had a moment to rest. I've either been working or cleaning up neighborhoods or, you know, just reading and filling my mind with good information. So that's just my little storm update. I'm not sure what to call this video. Maybe I'll call it like weather manipulation because I still have a lot to learn about this subject. If you guys have any resources I can look at when it comes to weather modification and what the intelligence agencies are capable of doing with the weather, I would really like to get into this subject because I thought this was a wild conspiracy for a while, but it just starts making more and more sense now, doesn't it? So just post it in the comment box below or send it to stewpassmore@protonmail.com. As always, hit subscribe, hit like down below. Till next time, guys. Peace.